All right, so I'm going to answer Victoria's question with some Ruby code. So your first question, Victoria, was that why does the first example work, but the second one doesn't? Well, when we're defining methods and when we're defining arguments, basically for this function called retrieve values, we have three arguments, right? #1, #2, and key. So in line 2, these are all of the variables that exist inside this block, right? So, and then the next line, we are initializing a new variable called value1. And what we're assigning is we're looking inside the #1 with the key that's passed in and saving it to value1, right? So we're defining a new variable, and this is the data that we're putting in. In number 2, what's happening is that here you're basically rewriting #1, and then you're trying to assign it a new value, right? The only problem is value1 doesn't exist inside the arguments definition, and it doesn't exist inside its function. So this code would work if we did this, value1 equals 1, or something like that. But because this, like whatever's on the right side, the variable needs to exist, or we need to, set up, I don't know, an explicit piece of data for it, right? So like if I did A, it's like, where's A coming from? So when you're, thinking of your functions, think of them, it's like a form. It's like when we're doing this thing, we have a form that has these pieces of information. But if we are trying to look outside and try to retrieve a piece of information that's not on the form, then we have a problem. So I hope that makes sense. So your second question, so I'm just gonna erase that. So your second question was about cat, or not cat, but instance variables and using the @ symbol. So basically, we need the @ symbol so that we can access the name, color, and age variables outside of this function. So our cat class is basically a cookie cutter where it allows us to make more cats, but we need to give it some ingredients, which is the name, the color, and the age. So we'll just do, I'm gonna create a new cat, and then first argument's the name, call it Ginger, color, Ginger, and age is 1. And I'll just make a getter method so I can access the name. Okay, so what's ginger.name? So we run this, and then we see that there's, we see Ginger here. But say if I did weight equals 10, what's happening here now is that the scope of the weight variable, it only exists inside the initialize function. I can't access this anywhere else. So, if I did weight and then I try to access it, or, even I did that and then try to put ginger.weight, oh, now I have an infinite loop, which is not good. We'll see if it lets me run it. Okay. So here you see that there is nothing that was returned because we haven't told Ruby that weight should be a property attached to cats. So just gonna do weight, and now you see that now we see there's 10. So that's why we need the at symbol for um, the instance variables. Okay, all right. So here, y starts hash equals new with the curly braces and not hash dot new with 0 here. And I think the best illustration I can give you is inside the Ruby docs. So when we do this, basically the default value is assigned. So when you have the HC here, C isn't a defined key, so Ruby just returns go fish to us. Okay, so the issue comes in the next line. So here we do try to access the C property again, but this time we are capital or like uppercasing the string. And now, this is all uppercase letters. And then when we try to access a new key that doesn't exist, this is still uppercase. This is no longer the default value. You see what's happening? So the default value is mutable. So one of the problems is that if the default value is mutable, then you might run into trouble in your code. So a lot of times what happens is you might have an object that's passed around through like thousands of lines of code into like hundreds of different functions, and you're not the only one writing your functions. So if your colleague Bob is expecting your hash default value to be 0, or like go fish with the capitalized letters, but somewhere along the way, someone else's code changed the default value to all uppercase. Now when the code is checking for this default value, it's not going to work anymore, right? So that's why this is not a good idea. And I know it seems like, when you're doing something like, and so what's happening here is like the default value for any key that doesn't exist for test, for the first variable is going to be nil, but for the second variable is going to be 0. And there is a difference between 0 and nil in coding. So yeah, that's why you might not always want to use 0 here. And the biggest problem, I think, is because this default value can be changed by accident, which in coding is never good because we are not the only ones writing code in one sitting. So, that's why, when you're writing code alone and you have small functions and you're just like writing something that you're only going to look at today, this is not a problem. But when you're coding in a large code base with other people and values can be changed unexpectedly, that's an issue. So I hope that helps. And yeah, like I am not sure where this proc.new is coming from. I don't think I saw it in the video. So anyways, if you have further questions, Victoria, let me know.